Your health is low. Do you have any potions or food?
Well, of course it's low, you old codger. I have severe social anxiety and can't talk to the merchants. Welcome back to another VNG Gaming Challenge. My name is Nick, and have you ever wanted to suffer the consequences of your own actions? Oh, am I kidding? Of course you do, and I do too. That's why today, I'll be beating Fable without buying anything. That includes buying levels to my stats as well. There are two caveats to this. I can still donate gold to the Temple of Avo because that's not buying anything, that's charity. Second, my definition of buying something only applies to physical, tangible items. Things like potions, armor, and weapons. I cannot buy those. I can still, and this might be a little controversial, I can still pay bodyguards to protect me, even though I don't actually ever pay them to protect me. I pay a bodyguard once, and, well, you know why I pay him if you've played this game before. That being said, I'm also playing this on Heroic Mode, which is a mode added to the Fable Anniversary Edition on the PC port, I believe. It makes the enemies tougher, and harder enemies appear way earlier than they normally would. Health potions are also a lot more scarce, and to top it off, resurrection files have been completely removed from the game. Ready for some fun? Let's go! The tutorial of Fable is not important in this challenge, so I'll make it short. I decided that I wanted to be evil for the time being, so I broke some barrels and gave a teddy to a person likely to rip off its head. You know, the usual. Bandits attack after I give my sister her birthday present, and Maze comes and saves me and makes me an apprentice at the Guild of Heroes. I now have to go through actual training. I made sure to take all of the advanced training courses for the extra items, then I fought Maze and became a true blue hero. I know we're going a little fast, but yeah, tutorial's really not important. Now for the actual challenge part. Normally, you'd immediately take the Wasp Menace quest card, but I felt like I could maybe get some other stuff done first, like getting one of the few elixirs of life we can get, or waiting for the statue to point towards Power Stone so I could go into the tavern cellar. Here I can get the leather chest piece. Would you be surprised if I told you that this is the best chest armor we get until the last hour of the game? Since I can't buy armor, I had to make sure I opened every chest, looted every house, and fished everywhere I could for even a chance to find maybe anything. Speaking of which, the guards were not too happy that I decided to start smashing barrels for some loot. I left to grab some books from the guild for later, and went back to Bowerstone in the morning to steal from every house I could. I also wanted to make sure I got this silver key. I would need at least 25 for something very special later, and I would also be able to get some decent weapons from the other silver key chests lying around Albion too. I felt more than ready to take on the Wasp Queen now, and made my way to the picnic area. Of course, even on Heroic Mode, this was still a very easy fight, and I walked away with a new trophy and some useless gold. I met up with Maze in Bowerstone Tavern, and he informed me that my sister might be alive somewhere. He also told me to buy some better equipment, which I can't do. Thanks, Maze. I can't wait to get to Hook Coast. New quest, new me. It was time to attack Orchard Farm, and also see how bad combat would be against human enemies. The answer is not very easy. I am a frail lad right now, and will remain frail forever, pretty much. Melee combat works for now, but I would need a good bow very soon, and for those of you that have played the game, you know where I'm going for that. Before I actually attacked Orchard Farm, I went to Fisher's Creek to get one of the only free fishing poles in the game. I also got some leather gauntlets, and made sure to partake in the great old fishing competition for a hat, a rod, and a silver key. I finally made my way to Orchard Farm, and thankfully it seems quests don't get too much harder than they normally do. I still took more damage, but the guards here seemed on par with normal. That's a bonus, I suppose. Quest complete, time to loot the farm, specifically for the Elixir of Life and the Silver Key. Back to the guild where I had to look at the experience pedestal with sadness for my next quest. The Trader Escort. I love this quest. I made my way through Greatwood once again, and came upon my first Earth Troll, much sooner than I would have expected. Not too hard to deal with, just hit the boulders back at the troll until I win. I make sure to unlock the Silver Key chest for our third Elixir of Life, and try to continue forward. But the game insisted on placing bandits that you wouldn't be fighting until Witchwood at the end of the path here, making it that much more difficult than it needs to be. After the fight, I realized something needed to be done. My crappy iron katana was not going to cut it for Darkwood. I needed an upgrade. Luckily, I knew where one was. A demon door in Greatwood Gorge would open up for me if I performed an act of great evil in his sight. I could also just max out my evil beforehand by force respawning villagers in front of the guild and killing them. After about 15 minutes of murder, I was now the most evil person ever, and I was able to acquire Wello's Pickhammer. It does 120 damage, which is about 4 times more than the Iron Katana. For some reason, I decided to take the Hob killing quest now. I don't know why, there was no reason for me to do the quest, and I won it easily anyways. Once done, I showed off some of my trophies for the first time in years to gain some extra renown, and then I took the Hob Cave quest. I'm pretty sure I did it for the memes, but I also knew that I could maybe get a decent weapon if I was lucky. It seemed like there were a lot more Hobs on the way back out of the cave than there normally was, which was bad and good. Bad because it was a frightening amount, and good because when I left the cave, I still had a combat multiplier of 15, which means I can open this demon door for the Cutlass Bluetane, another step up from Willow's Pickhammer, and probably the main weapon I'd use for the majority of the run. Better prepared than I was before, I entered Darkwood and met with the traders I needed to escort. Thankfully, all of the enemies here were now made easy with the Cutlass Bluetane, and I also happened up on some leather boots for my troubles. I decided not to sacrifice one of the traders for Skorm's bow quite yet, and continued cutting through the bandits until I had to fight another Earth Troll. Much less imposing after already fighting a fair few in Greatwood. Traders escorted, time to loot Barrow Fields. Mainly the Grey House for another silver key. You know, it's kind of funny. It doesn't take very long at all to get back to Oakvale, but when I was a kid it felt like it took forever. I suppose time passed differently back then. The hero has a lovely Vietnam flashback, and then I meet up with Maze once again, who tells me that Twinblade, the leader of the bandits, might know where my sister was. Also, he was the one who burned down my town when I was a kid. Ooh, the Vengeance Saga! But first, a quick looting session of the houses for what little loot I could get. I never much liked the opening to the Twinblade quest, since it's the only time you're supposed to sneak in the whole game pretty much. The mechanics here are not good, and I was better off just killing the bandits and waiting for the reinforcements to pass so I could enter the gate. Before we could actually get into Twinblade's camp, I would need to find a set of bandit armor, which I was pretty excited for, until I realized that it didn't have any meaningful armor rating. Well, there goes my hopes and dreams. Better take it out on these slightly stronger bandits who can kill me in just a few swings if I let them. Decked out in bandit garb, I could enter the camp, but I needed a bandit camp pass if I wanted to get into the elite camp. There were a few ways I could go about this, and I picked the stupidest one. Like I said in the rules, I only consider buying something if I immediately get something physical and tangible in return, so gambling doesn't count, which means I played Spot the Edition instead of just murdering the Game Master for the pass to enter the elite camp. Not sure why. Maybe it's because I like this minigame even though I'm absolutely abhorrent at it. Either way, with the pass in hand, I entered the elite camp and had to cause a ruckus to get into Twinblade's throne area. Releasing some of his prisoners did the trick, and I was off to fight the ex-hero. If you've played this game before, you know Twinblade is pretty much a freebie. He has super telegraphed attacks and a stupid easy-to-see weak point in his back. I didn't even get hit once during the fight. As I was about to deliver the finishing blow though, it turns out my sister was actually here all along. Wow! She gave me some useless experience I couldn't actually use, and I decided to let Twinblade live. I needed to alter my alignment to neutral pretty soon. I also made sure to loot his tent, and then I left back for the guild. I did another side quest for the memes here, and had a lovely talk with Maze about my next step. He needed me to check on his old friend the archaeologist, who was apparently hiding in Witchwood. There's not much to say here except I got to fight my first rock troll, who was annoying, but was much the same as the earth trolls. I also found the Temple of Avo. I donated about 8,000 gold, which was enough to put me into the neutral alignment. I then went back to Witchwood Stones, and since I've played this game way more than one human should, I already knew the name of the demon door hiding the archaeologist. I tapped out hits on the stones and met face to face with a man who was not happy I found him. Quest over, and to boot, there was a chest in here that had chainmail leggings. Oh man, that was so worth it. Now, the moment we've all been waiting for. It was time to get Skorm's bow. Pretty much the best weapon in the game. Like I've said a few times already, the buying part of this challenge is only applied to items, weapons, armor, potion, etc. So with that in mind, bear with me as I pay a bodyguard to follow me for all of about 2 minutes to the Chapel of Skorm, on the cusp of the 7th in-game day, to sacrifice him to the always soul-hungry demons of the Void. Thankfully, I was able to get the bow in one attempt. I was pretty confident that this would be my main weapon for the rest of the game, and I was right. Now, I'll let you in on a little secret. This is when the game gets actually hard, and for Fable, that takes a lot of work. I had access to the next main quest, the slaying of the White Balverine. Newsflash for everyone, yeah, Skorm's bow is my new best weapon for the rest of the game, but it is a mere shadow of what it could be. I fire really slowly, and I only do a little more than 200 damage on most hits, usually less since I was trying to fire fast enough to keep enemies away from me. Also, the White Balverine is infinitely more terrifying now. He can take about half of my health in one hit, which does not bode well for later on. After I smack him around a few times, we learn that he actually used to be a human and his now ex-wife would like us to kill him. She gives us a silver augment, which I don't really have any weapons for, and it's time for the fight of my life. I really wish I would have grabbed Arkan's crossbow from the silver key chest in Darkwood, since it comes pre-equipped with a silver augment, but wish in one hand and you know the rest. I start the fight by getting off a charged arrow shot in him for a whopping 97 damage. I made sure to keep him at bay with fast shots, and once he took enough damage, he started to spawn in some of his buddies. I made sure to kill them quickly, as I didn't want to get overrun. I had to use a fair few of my health potions in this fight, but by the end, I stood victorious and got a gnarly looking head as a trophy. Now that I've made a name for myself, I was nominated for the arena. Oh man, I was so nervous for this part. I knew I wasn't properly ready, and I needed a lot more health potions. Thankfully, even though I couldn't buy them, they dropped very regularly for most enemies, so I farmed Greatwood's easy enemies for a while until I felt a bit more confident. Once I was ready, I made my way to the arena and prepared for some bloodshed. Now, there are only 2 rounds which really matter here, so I'm gonna kinda speedrun this. Round 1 was Wasps. Yawn. Round 2 was Hobs. A little more difficult, but Cutlass Bluetin was very effective against them. Round 3 was when I started fighting with Whisper as my companion for the rest of the arena. Oh, it's also the Balverine round. This was so goddamn bad, it's not even funny. Whisper could usually keep a few of them occupied, but the second wave had a white Balverine. Not too terrible, just a very long fight. The last wave had 2 white Balverines though, and both were aggroed onto me. Not gonna lie, I really thought I was gonna die here, but thankfully Whisper picked up the slack and took one of them off my hands. Done and dusted. The 4th round saw us fighting undead and or hollow men if you will, and they were a pushover. Super slow and easy to avoid. Round 5 was bandits. Not too bad, especially after the Balverines. I just had to keep moving and avoid the ones with bows. Round 6 was the Earth Trolls. Whisper helped me here by aggroing one of them, which made the fight a cinch. Round 7 was the Rock Trolls, and they were not easy. Whisper's AI must have had an aneurysm after the Earth Troll fight because she got stuck, and I had to deal with these 2 all by myself. Well, there go pretty much all of my health potions, and at this point, I thought I was going to have an aneurysm too. Thankfully, the last round is pretty easy by comparison. Arachnox is easily avoidable, along with a tail attack, so winning was quick. Now all I had to do was fight Whisper, and she's very lucky I decided to change my alignment, otherwise I would have absolutely killed her. That's the arena, done and dusted. Oh, by the way, we also met Jack of Blades, forgot to mention that. Back to the Grey House, I met up with my sister Teresa, and she informed me that our mother was still alive, and was being kept prisoner by Jack of Blades. The hero of heroes! Oh, I'd also have to rescue the archaeologist. Fun. I declined to take the quest card, for now, and made my way into Bowerstone North. I stole from all of the houses and started the quest to prove that Lady Grey, the town's mayor, was in fact super evil. That would come into play again later. For now, I made my way through the back end of Bowerstone until I reached Litchfield Graveyard. There was one item here I direly needed. It was the only place in the game with a free shovel and a chest, and I needed that. With my newfound spade, I backtracked everywhere I knew there was a silver key available, which took me a while considering there were quite a few scattered around. I also took the time to kick some chickens for another key, and donated all of the books I'd gathered so far to the school in Bowerstone for another one as well. With all of that out of the way, I made my way back to the Grey House and flashed my lantern 3 times so the ghost of Lady Grey's sister would let me into the basement. Here I found a Willmaster's elixir, which I have already found a few, but I didn't bother to bring it up since the only spell I know is level 1 lightning, and I am not doing that again. I found a note from Lady Grey's sister informing me that she was killed by Lady Grey, who promptly showed up and asked me to cover up for her in exchange for marriage. I'd still have to fight Thunder for her hand in marriage, but that was easy stuff right there, and I would need to anyway since there was a silver key I could only get during the fight. Now that I was married, I could get another silver key from Lady Grey's chamber, and my new best melee weapon from a silver key chest in the same room, the Katana Hiryu. Very good. Almost as good as a Sword of Aeons, but not quite. It was about time to head back to the main quest now. The archaeologist wouldn't wait forever, I suppose. This quest has given me troubles in both of my other Fable challenge videos, and it was no exception here. We get introduced to Jack of Blades' minions, and they are tough. They like to block and can get multiple hits off easily. The guards that were here to help barely did anything, and by the time I got to where the archaeologist was, the game decided that we needed a 5-minute timer to save him. I couldn't kill all the minions in time, of course, and had to rethink my plan of attack once I failed the mission. I needed more health potions so I could confidently attack in melee range instead of relying on Skorm's bow, which is not very good against hordes of minions. I went back to Greatwood to farm the easy bandits there until I had about 30 health potions. Time to try again, and to save time, I'll just skip ahead to the timed portion of the quest. The idea here was to have at least 2 minions grouped up at a time and go to town with flourishes, which did a lot more damage than Skorm's bow. That didn't stop me from wasting a health potion every 10 seconds, but being able to damage more than one enemy at a time helped more than enough to finish the quest with time to spare. The archaeologist told me how to find the secret path to Bargate Prison in Litchfield Graveyard, and my quest to save my mom could begin. This quest has never posed much of a challenge for me, and it was the same this time around too. All I had to do was recover Nostro, the old gravekeeper's armor, helmet, sword, and shield. I did that before he even told me to do it by fishing, digging, and grave robbing. Easy peasy. Now the demon door would open the path to the prison, and all I had to do was participate in a little undead violence to reveal the path. I was finally able to find some real head protection in a chest here too. Sadly, there were a lot of undead in the next couple of areas, and while I could run past most of them, I did have to fight a fair few of them to open the way forward. This was made much harder when a nymph got mixed up in the fight, but I managed. The prison guards in the next area were not to be trifled with, and I just ignored them and ran past into the torture chamber where my mother was being held. Now all I had to do was leave, and we were home free, right? Wrong. Jack of Blades got wind of what I was doing and imprisoned me as well as my mother. There's not too much to say about being in prison. I have to race with the other inmates and listen to the warden recite poetry about my wife Lady Grey, which is always really funny to me. Of course, I couldn't steal the key to the cell yet, so I had to wait another year to try again. By the way, if you hadn't noticed, my character looks really young right now, even though we're usually like 50 at this point in the game. Oddly enough, I checked the stats menu, and it was only 19. I'm assuming I would have been 18 if I hadn't spent a year in prison, so I guess leveling up your skills also affects your age too. Never knew that. Interesting, I suppose. After I won another race and stole the cell key from the warden's book, I immediately went to grab my stuff. I didn't want to get demolished by the guards. I was hoping that the guard armor in these chests would have been a nice addition to my collection, but the armor rating was garbage. Back into the torture chamber to grab Mom, and I ran past all the guards until I got to the Kraken boss fight. This is an easy fight. I've never had any problems with it. Until now. The Kraken was only doing 200-ish damage to me, which I could tank and use a health potion for. But at the brink of his death, he did 500 damage to me and killed me. Well, there goes my pointless streak of not dying in this game for like 12 years. Oh well, traditions are meant to be broken, I suppose. Next attempt, I made sure to stay far away from his breath attack, and won rather easily. Mother and I left, and she awarded me with some useless experience. Thanks, Mom. I can't wait to see you in the Chamber of Fate. We're almost done with the base game now. Only a few more missions to go, starting with activating the Cullis Gate to Hook Coast. This involved me traveling to Darkwood and feeding the Cullis Gate the souls of the undead, which I thought would be harder since the progression bar slowly goes down, but I managed to fill it after some time. Hook Coast is the obligatory snow area of the base game, and you're literally only here for like 5 minutes the whole entire game. The area I needed to get to was conveniently covered by a red force field, and I couldn't enter. My mother apparently knew how to get past it, so it was back to the guild for help. Oh, what the hell? She was free for all at 2 minutes, man. Luckily, the book to remove the force field was still here, and the guildmaster could read it over the guild seal. Oh, would you look at that? Maze was a traitor. After he helped Jack get the Septimus key, it was time for me to fight him. Maze only has one attack I need to worry about, and that's his Inflame spell, which can pretty much one-shot me. He only does it when he has his physical shield up, so if I removed that with my bow, I could go in for the melee attack and pretty much stun-lock him until he teleported to the next area of the battle. If Maze is far enough away, he'll shoot easily dodgeable fireballs, and you can also hit him with your bow from here without him blocking. Rinse and repeat until he's done for. The final battle with Jack of Blades was coming up, and I needed some more potions, so it was back to Greatwood for some farming. Once I was prepared, I talked to the guildmaster and started the chase to all of the focus sites in the game, while always being slightly behind Jack of Blades. I didn't fight any of the enemies in my way. I wanted to save all of my potions for the big fight. At the last stone, it was revealed that Jack had my mom, and it was back to the guild for the fight of my life. Of course, before the fight starts, Jack kills my mom, and apparently I was next. He started off with some minions, which I made sure to stay far away from to keep my health potion stocks high, and once they were dead, he started menacingly walking towards me, launching magical attacks from the Sword of Aeons. Wouldn't you know it, they do a lot of damage to my still frail body. They were easier to avoid from a distance, so I hammered him with Skorm's bow until the second phase of the fight started. I knew this move was coming up, and I decided to screw around anyway. When he raises the sword into the air, he does a very fast-hitting magic attack that depletes your life stupidly fast, and I died unsurprisingly. Next time, I made sure to already be behind a stone when he raises the sword, and after a while, he also starts to spawn more minions. The nice thing is that he ends up damaging them a lot, so I never had to worry about them too much. A few more shots from Skorm's bow, and I was victorious. Now I could either throw the Sword of Aeons into the void, or kill my sister with it and reap its powers. Duh, of course I did that. I love this fucking thing. That would be the end of the game, but the Anniversary Edition includes the Lost Chapters DLC, so after an in-game year passes, we get called back into the guild to help with a new problem. Apparently the Northern Wastes are experiencing some problems, and they wanted my help. To get to the Wastes, I would need the Fireheart, which is conveniently located behind this demon door that has been here all along but wasn't awake. I could either kill the Fireheart guys inside of the demon door, or free them. Either way, I would get the Fireheart, so I opted to free them to try and fix my newly acquired evil alignment. With the Fireheart in hand, I could make my way back to Hook Coast and put it in the lighthouse to call the ghost ship to take me to the Wastes. But the game had other ideas for me. There was a new enemy to fight, and they were by far the worst. Summoners. I hate these things in a normal game of Fable, and I hate them even more here. They have stupidly powerful attacks, and yes, all of them can one-shot me. I don't think this would have been possible without a little bug in the game. If you lose all of your health and drink a health potion quickly, it basically acts as a resurrection file, so I could at least get back up and fight some more. I wasted pretty much all of my potions on the first summoner, and there were 2 more to fight afterwards. Yeah, I died here. Who would have thought? Decked out in potions, I was back to Hook Coast to try again, and here's where I learned something that probably saved the playthrough. If you attack a summoner and continually hit them with flourish attacks, they get stuck in this animation loop where they only walk backwards. This leaves them wide open to full frontal attacks. Super handy for any upcoming summoner fights. And it made this fight a hell of a lot easier to handle. With the summoners dead, the ghost ship came out of the water, and I started my long journey to the Northern Wastes. Once I arrive, there are a couple of things to loot, but most of them are of no use to me. I also have to fight our first ice troll here, and they sucked, of course. Unlike the other trolls, there were no projectiles for me to hit back, so I had to take care of it the hard way, which cost me a fair few potions. After the fight, I ran past every other enemy straight into Snowspire Village. Here I met Scythe, one of the oldest heroes around. He wanted me to collect the Oracle tablets in Necropolis so we could talk with the Oracles about why the summoners were coming back. Yep, officially the worst mission in the game. I hate this place so much, even in the normal playthrough. I never know where the tablets I need are, and if you dig up the wrong one, a bunch of enemies spawn, and there are a lot of wrong tablets to dig up. The only good thing about this area is the 25 silver key chest that houses the best armor in the game. Finally, I wouldn't be so damn frail anymore. This wasn't a win-all, mind you, as I still died when I got to the end of Necropolis to the summoners, but it was better than before. On the next attempt, I tried to keep all of my potions available for the final area, which was made much easier when I realized I could give the demon door here my silver keys now since I had no use for them anymore. Anytime I went into the demon door, the enemies would despawn, and I could dig for tablets in peace, and keep my health potions for later. Yeah, that made the final area much more manageable, along with the flourish method I talked about earlier. With all of the tablets memorized, I left Necropolis and YMCA'd the Oracle into telling me what the hell was going on. Of course, it was Jack of Blades' doing. He wasn't dead yet, and I would have to open up the Bronze Gate at Archon's Shrine to fight him once and for all. To open the gate, I would need 3 very specific souls, and the first called for the King of the Arena. You guys remember Thunder? How I kicked his ass to marry Lady Grey? Yeah, well, he won the arena at one point, so it was time to harvest his soul. The other option was competing in the arena again, but there are a lot of summoners in that fight. No thank you, I think I'll kill Thunder. This fight is no different than the first time I fought him, except he maybe does a little more damage. Didn't do much for him in the end. He still died. The second soul I would need was that of the heroine. I could have just killed Briar Rose for her soul, but that would be a bit harder than the other option, which was going to Oakvale Graveyard and asking for my dead mother's soul. Of course, it still wasn't simple. There were screamers everywhere, and I had to kill a lot of them to take my mother's soul. I actually almost died here. They all really like to attack at once. But I managed, and with my mother's soul in hand, I went back to the shrine, and the next soul I needed was the oldest. I'd either be able to take the Guildmaster's soul or Nostro the Gravekeeper's soul. I went with Nostro because I actually like the Guildmaster, and figured it would be easier too. To kill Nostro, I had to take out his undead guards, and then I would be able to attack him for a few seconds. Rinse and repeat, and I had all the souls I needed to open the Bronze Gate and finish Jack off for good. For some reason, Jack of Blades is a dragon now. That's cool, I guess. Of course, I went for the wrong play right out of the gate and started shooting him with Skorm's bow. He retaliated with a ground smash attack that one-shot me. Well, that's nice. I went for the more direct approach next time and started slashing him with the Sword of Aeons. As long as I dodged left before his bite attack, I could keep hitting him until he took to the air. Then I would dodge all of his fire breath attacks and rinse and repeat until he starts spawning in minions to fight alongside him. I wasn't too worried yet, as he ended up killing most of them, but after whittling his health down some more, he started to spawn in summoners. Now it was pretty much a game of run around and avoid the summoner attacks and Jack's fire attacks until Jack landed. Then I had to avoid the summoner attacks some more and take what few hits I could at Jack while he was grounded. It was not easy, and I was nearly out of potions, but in the end I finished Jack off with his own sword and made sure to chuck his soul mask into the lava, destroying him once and for all. So yes, you can beat Fable without buying anything, including skill levels. But how strong could we be right now if I spent all of my experience? The answer is, I had everything maxed out except for spells and the last level of magic power. Not bad, but not super good for the end of the game either. I hope y'all will join me the next time as I attempt to beat Fable with just heavy weapons but without the strength to properly wield them. If that interests you, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on it, and if you enjoyed today's video, leave a like and comment on your favorite Fable memory. Make sure to check out the Discord, I'll have a link in the video description, and until next time, stay safe out there, and peace out.